Put that coffee down.
I'm not here to waste your time, okay? I certainly hope you're not here to waste mine. So I'm gonna keep this short.
Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman.
The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
Coffee's for closers only.
Well, hello there, friend. Welcome back to the Behind Your Back podcast with me, Bradley Hartman. In this podcast, we talk about leadership, personal productivity, time management, and the craft of selling in this crazy construction industry. And on today's podcast, we're going to be talking about this time of year, which is some of my favorite time of year. Why? I'll tell you why. 3 letters, 1 word, NFL draft. That's right. I'm recording this on, Wednesday? Wednesday night? That's right, the 28th. And by this time tomorrow, the NFL draft will be officially underway. And many teams, probably including my favorite team, the Chicago Bears, will begin to disappoint us all over again. But first, let's talk about our sponsors here. I want to thank Boise Cascade Engineered Wood Products. They help you move faster and build stronger. They make it easier to get more done. And our friends at Materials Exchange. They're the LBM industry's answer to E-Trade. Materials Exchange is your digital marketplace for lumber and panels. All right, that is Materials Exchange. So, that's right. Talking about the NFL draft. I love this time of year. Why? Dude, because you just see the most irrational, most biased behavior ever. So you play the college football season. You see how these guys play. And the studs you've been watching since they were sophomores in high school. You praise them for year upon year upon year. Then we give someone the Heisman. And then we put these guys on pedestals. Then the season's over. There's no more games to be played. And what do? We critique them, we overanalyze everything, and before you know it, these guys that we thought were amazing for the last 6 years, they were all Americans, and they were everything we wanted them to be, they're not that good anymore. And then these other guys, they rise up the rankings, right? They were trash for the last 3 years, but now, we sit them in the room and put them behind a whiteboard, and all of a sudden, we're going to draft them number 2. I love it. I love this time of year. And as a failed college quarterback myself, the quarterback evaluations are amazing. And if you look at just Josh Allen for one of the Buffalo Bills, right? We're going to get to Mitch Trubisky in a minute, who's now the 3rd string, I think, quarterback behind Josh Allen. Josh Allen, for his first 2 years in the NFL, was literally one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. And then his 3rd year, he got so much better and almost led the league, came in 2nd in the MVP voting. And why? Well, here's the deal. 22-year-olds, turns out they can improve. Go figure. Anyway, so what is the NFL draft all about? It's finding new talent. It's finding talent with the best fit on your team. It's about upgrading it. And would any NFL GM ever think about sitting it out and just say, I'm good. I think we're good for now. No, you wouldn't. You'd be fired. And the GM of my Chicago Bears is a guy named Ryan Pace. I played football with Ryan Pace at Eastern Illinois University. I'm a big fan of his. He was an extremely hard worker. He was a great teammate, have nothing but nice things to say about him. I would say, though, in his role as GM, I would have preferred that this didn't happen.
The 2nd pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Mitchell Trubisky.
What the? Oh my God, no! No!
Yeah, that not so great. But I will say, he's living proof that you can overcome the sunk cost fallacy. And for GMs who bet the farm to move up and take a quarterback like Trubisky and then 3 years later say, my fault, my bad, he ain't good, and you just let him go for nothing, that takes a lot. And most of these GMs don't survive that. And knock on wood, we'll hope Mr. Ryan Pace does that. But speaking of GMs, I will tell you this. Dave Gettleman seems like a really nice guy. He does. If he was like a neighbor, I would love to say hi to him and pat him on the back and make stupid jokes about, the dogs and kids and stuff. But as a GM, and again, I have zero interest in anything related to the New York Giants, but he seems just like a big dumb animal. Nice guy, but seems terrible. You just hear some of these clips and they just absolutely crack me up.
How you doing? I mean, this is like Howard Johnson's back in the day. Can you really know anybody in 15 minutes? I mean, it's like speed dating. You don't want to go to, get there.
If you are not an avid follower of Dave Gettleman, but you're a fan of the NFL, you're missing out on something special. Every time he has a presser, he says some ridiculous thing, but he really reminds me of the SNL character, Drunk Uncle. Are you familiar with him? You should listen to Drunk Uncle because he's like cousins, brothers, nephew of the Drunk Uncle.
The holidays are not what they used to be, Seth. You know, when I was a kid, Christmas meant something. People got dressed up. They would travel 6 hours in a car. Nowadays, it's just, hey, could you email me dinner? Hey, could you fax me a hug?
So yeah, GMs, they can make stupid decisions. And like Dave Gettleman with the number 2 pick a couple years ago, picking a running back when obviously running backs should never go number 2 in the modern NFL because they get injured even though they're really amazing. Even if some of them are, you can't do that. That's stupid, right? Yep, he did that. But anyway, this podcast here today, my friend, that you are listening to, this is really about the biggest lie in sales today is the biggest truth in the NFL. What do I mean by that? Well, how many GMs do you know would sit back and say, okay, we have the opportunity to upgrade our team. We have the opportunity to find new people that fit with what we're trying to do here. How many GMs would say, the problem with the NFL draft is you got to break bad news to people and people that I like, the ones that fans like. And when we draft new talent, that means we have to displace older people and because we can only have 53. That's the rule. That's no fun. Why don't we just sit this one out? Let's just sit out the 2021 NFL draft, right? I like the team we've got. Is it perfect? No, right? Are we going to win the Super Bowl? No, it's okay. It's not perfect. Let's just ride it out until we return to the new normal. What would you do if your team did that? You would lose your mind. Why? Because there's all this available talent and you can move the less talented people out. The people you didn't want to work with, you can move them out. You can bring in new talent, right? Just like the NFL team can upgrade their roster, you, my friend, you and your team have the very, very unique chance today, right? In this unique and crazy and in some ways mindless era that we are in right now in the construction community, you have a unique opportunity to upgrade your roster. Now, on recent episodes of this podcast, and certainly with clients that we're working with and friends in our industry, I've been talking about prospecting, right? I've been talking about prospecting and the need for us to rethink what prospecting looks like today. And the most common response I get is, listen, Hartman, the last thing I need right now is to prospect. This one salesperson gave me this really great response. I actually wrote it down. He said, not only is it really expensive, it has the unique feature of not being available for you to buy right now. I love that. I wrote it down. I said, I get it, right? And most people are saying, you know what? If you're going to help me with prospecting, tell you what, why don't you not do that? And why don't you help me find inventory, right? So we're revisiting this idea. Now, here's the number one rule of prospecting. And I think most people, they recognize this. The number one rule of prospecting is never, ever, ever, ever stop prospecting. And people understand that. We're like, yeah, but again, we're in unprecedented times. And in unprecedented times, you stop prospecting. And I say, erroneous, false, this is not true. You never, ever, ever stop prospecting. Why? Because the minute you realize you need to start prospecting, it's already too late. Now, here's what I will say. You have activities under prospecting and you have the mindset under prospecting. So should your activities for prospecting change right now? Yes, absolutely. It'd be idiotic for you not to. Why? Because it's all context. However, the mindset of prospecting says you never, ever, ever stop prospecting. So the question becomes, how do we change our prospecting activities, but keep the prospecting mindset? So obviously you don't need to do warm calls. You don't need to spend a whole bunch of time doing research on people you'd love to work with. Why? Because they're knocking on your door. The people you've been trying to reach for the last 5 years who wouldn't give you the time of the day, guess what? They're giving you the whole watch right now. They'll do whatever it takes. The people who weren't interested in new ideas, they weren't interested in new insights, they weren't interested in having an experience with you that explained how you do what you do is so much better and different than what they know today. They weren't interested. They are now. They're knocking at your door. They want to talk to you. They're a lost ship at sea during terrible weather. They're looking for any port in the storm. And the most common response that I'm getting right now is, port's closed. We're good. Do I want to upgrade my roster? Do I want to upgrade my roster of customers? Nah, I'm good. I'm going to sit this NFL draft out right now. Why? Because I'm good. Now, I know it's hard to think about prospecting this way because it happens so rarely. It really only happens maybe a couple times in a century, right? But we need to think about this like the NFL draft. You can't sit it out and you can't think too small. So it's still prospecting. It's just different prospecting activities, but it's the same prospecting mindsets. Think of your customers as your current 53-man roster. And in the NFL draft, they get to draft new talent that's coming out of college. For you, you get to look at all your available prospects. You get to choose. And right now, you have that opportunity because your goal is to get the overall roster of ideal customers who have the best fit, whose unique combination of needs and fears and pain and opportunities for growth are solved or mitigated by you and by your team, right? I want you to think about your dream prospects. Who are the prospects that you've been dreaming of? The ones who wouldn't return your phone calls for the last 5 years. The ones who weren't open to new ideas. Well, they're all interested now. But here's the challenge, and here's the reason most people aren't doing anything is because it requires tough decisions. You got to make trade-offs, and there must be displacement. You must be taking someone out of the rotation and sliding someone new. You got to cut someone to add someone. But if you can't do it now, when every builder and every subcontractor is knocking at your door, and they've never been less price sensitive compared to the last 20 years, if you're not going to do it now, when? When are you going to do it? And I get it, it's hard. Why is it hard? Well, because we don't like conflict. And conflict arises when we need to, you get to pick your verb here. You want to fire the customer, you want to divorce the customer, I don't care, whatever. You're going to have to disappoint someone. But in a profession built on saying yes all the time, we need to start saying no now. And for many, they struggle with the idea because it feels risky. It feels risky to let a long-standing, yet annoying customer go in favor of the promise of a new relationship. But I'm going to give you 5 recommendations here that I would encourage you to think about and act upon. At least one. Pick one of the 5 and commit to doing. Number 1, you got to say no to grow, right? I have a sign on my wall. I'm looking at it right now. It says no is a complete sentence. You have to say no, right? And I would say, who are you going to say no to? Well, you're the annoying customers of yours who you don't like, the ones you always complain about, who they complain to you, they distract you, they send obsessive emails, they don't give you referrals, they're slow to pay, they want to make changes and not pay you for them. These people, the ones you've been bitching about for years, you now have the opportunity to get rid of them. And what a better time. You're already price gouging. And I know it's not you. I realize it's the wholesalers and manufacturers and the mills. Oh, the Canadian mills. Those bastards, right? Yeah, it's everyone. Whatever. It doesn't matter. The builder doesn't care. At the end of the day, the price is going up like crazy, right? You're already price gouging. Just do a little bit more to your annoying customers and either get incremental margin on top for the pain and anguish and annoyances that you suffer because of them, or they go someplace else. Either way, you win. So number 1, say no to grow. Identify your most annoying customers and start saying no to them. That leads to recommendation number 2. Maybe say, hey, that just feels aggressive, Hartman. Not a big fan of that. What's number 2? Maybe I'll look at number 2. All right, number 2, let's get a little more analytical. Let's look at your cost to serve metrics. Do you have those? Because if we're only looking at revenue, and we're only looking at gross margin and gross profit dollars, that gives us only a fraction of the data necessary to tell us who are truly our most profitable customers. I'm talking about, let's look at how many quotes they put in, how many convert to order, how many deliveries, how many calls, emails, texts, changes, how many times they call for pickups and they want credit immediately. All of these things factored in. Because if we don't have a true cost to serve analysis, you're flying blind. You might have an idea, but until you truly know, you don't know. And we go through this exercise with our clients, and undoubtedly, we always have several, more than 3, typically less than 10, folks that we would initially off the cuff identify as our best customers once we run the cost to serve analysis and we dive into the details and we pull out the data, right? This can happen over a month time period. And we say, you know what? Somewhere between 3 and 10 of those guys, they're not even close to our best customers anymore, right? If you don't know this information, if you're not running the cost to serve, know that you're truly not understanding who your best customers really are. And therefore, it's really hard to do what we're asking you to do, to fire or divorce the ones who are truly at the bottom of the barrel. All right, number three. Number three, I want you to take your bottom 20% of your customers. So the bottom 20%. So if you're just the average sales guy, you probably got like 109 accounts because don't get me started. That makes sense because you can really focus on 109 accounts. All right, let's look at the bottom 20% of those, right? Realistically, if they're buying anything from you, there's no loyalty there. So I want you to take whatever they're doing, okay? And then I want you to multiply what they did last month over the balance of the years. And I want you to think about every time there's a quote, every time there's an order, every time they call you, and even today, some of the worst customers are still challenging us on price. Don't really understand how this is working these days. I want you to take that all the way up, right? I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about all that time and energy and focus, not just of you, the inside sales team as well, the operations team as well. And I want you to think about putting that in a giant bucket. And I want you to reallocate that to your best customers. The customers that you know, if you just had a little bit more time and a little bit more bandwidth, you could sell Johnson Homes their exterior doors and hardware and maybe even cabinetry. I just need more time that we don't have. Well, take your bottom 20% of your customers, get rid of them. Hire an account manager, get rid of them, just stop calling them. Don't do anything for them. Give them zero love. I mean zero. And reallocate that all now to your best customers to lock up those relationships for the long term. Now let's take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. Do you ever find yourself annoyed when you have to make a phone call these days? It's Friday evening and you're deciding on dinner. It's your cheat day from that new carnivore diet you're on, exclusively eating beef, bacon, bonobo, bone marrow, Himalayan sea salt, and water. Telling yourself this diet here, this is a good long-term strategy for living. But tonight, you decide you want pizza. You turn to your wife and she says, yeah, you gotta call them. The number's on the magnet on the fridge. What? I gotta call them? And speak to a human? Why? There's no online ordering? Why not? How'd these clowns survive COVID with no online ordering? If it requires a phone call today, it better be unique and precious and complex and easy to screw up. Not like pizza, right? No, and not like lumber either. If you're still making phone calls, being put on hold, listening to Lindo Ronstadt elevator music, wasting time to learn about lumber pricing, you need to experience Materials Exchange. Materials Exchange is the LBM industry's answer to E-Trade. It's simple to view transparent pricing in real time, it's secure, it's easy to order, and it's low cost. So quit relying on phone calls to tell you lumber pricing. See for yourself by registering today at materialsexchange.com. That's the word materials, the letter X, and the word change. When you do register, and again, it's free, use the promo code BRADLEY, BRADLEY, and get your first trade free. There's zero risk, and you get real-time pricing transparency. Materials Exchange is the LBM industry's answer to E-Trade. Materials Exchange is your digital marketplace for lumber and panels. All right, so that's number three. We're gonna go on to number four. I want you to conduct an 80-20 analysis on your book of business. Now you can do this, you should do this, by your individual sales rep and also by company. And what you're gonna find, it's not the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule says 20% of your customers are gonna drive 80% of your revenue and 80% of your profits, and vice versa. 20% of your most annoying customers are going to create 80% of your frustration and 80% of your lost dollars, right? And 80% of your slow pays, right? All of that. And what we routinely find when we run this for the majority of salespeople, it's not the 80-20 rule. It's more like the 11-95 rule. 11% of the customers are driving 95% of the revenue and profits. So run these numbers. Complete the 80-20% analysis, or hell, Call me. I can give you one of two versions, the free one or the paid one. We can either help you with it directly, or we can give you a one-page sheet that you can walk through it and do it yourself. What you're going to find is that you are not as nearly as strong as you think you are. And you're going to realize the risk that individual sales reps have, and hence the entire organization have, is something that you probably don't realize. And once you identify that, then the idea of getting rid of our worst customers and getting more customers at the top end is something that is very logical, and it's something that you really need to do immediately. So complete the 80-20 analysis to understand in your book of business how secure you are with a large group of customers that are relatively diversified, driving your profit every single month. And number 5, I'm going to give you a recommendation, an easy one that can tie to some long-term trends that maybe you need to do. So number 5 is, if you want to grow your e-commerce and you identify that you have some customers that are annoying that you wouldn't mind getting rid of, but you don't want the conflict, I've got a simple solution for you. Just simply tell them that you'll only sell to them if they order online. So you got your e-commerce running and you're finding that somewhere between 0 and 2% of sales are coming through there. And your goal is to get up 5 by the end of the year, which, by the way, if you already do not have an e-commerce goal and you're coming out the other end of the pandemic, you need to sincerely reevaluate what's happening in your life and where you think this industry is going. But I digress, okay? Simply tell your worst customers, here's the deal. Can't call us anymore. You want our stuff? Love it. Love to serve you. You're going to get everything we've always done and then some. Actually not. You're not going to get and then some. You're just going to get the bare minimum, but you're going to do it online, right? Tell them you will only sell to them if they buy online. Yeah, that's right. You're going to force them to buy at work the exact same place they buy at home. If they don't realize the similarities between buying from Amazon and buying from you on e-commerce, well, they're probably missing the boat as well. But that's one way to do it. You got some annoying customers you want to get rid of to create some more bandwidth for the new draft prospects you're looking at? Then great. Force them to buy online through your e-commerce. So when you do this, will there be some unintended consequences? Well, I'm going to think of one for you. You are going to be giving your competitors the gift of crappy customers, the ones with low margin and slow pay and no value for you, who don't give referrals, but they demand lots of attention. You're going to give these customers to your competitors. And that's going to be the gift that keeps on giving. Because I'll tell you this, we're hearing this new tactic that is being used all over the country with our clients. And this tactic is, while we've been largely, right, taking care of ourselves in the pandemic, doing a lot of stuff over Zoom, not meeting face-to-face, not a whole lot of travel and entertainment, well, some companies are going after your best customers with a very specific tactic of going on these golf junkets, flying people all over, and dumping a ton of money on them. And here's the deal. People like variety. We haven't done that a whole lot. And all of a sudden, somebody comes around throwing money at us, and they want to go out drinking and smoking cigars and hitting the golf course and having all the fun. That is going to be effective for some. So by getting rid of your worst customers now, you're going to be giving your competitors the gift of crappy customers that at the same time will suck up resources and time so they cannot use the very real tactic of using travel and entertainment to steal your truly best customers. So it's a 2-for-1. And what I have found is when we start talking about firing and divorcing and reallocating attention away from our worst customers, people all of a sudden get kind of squeamish about it. And I'm forced to remind them about all the things that they've been complaining about these very same customers. They are slow to pay. They're unorganized. They blame you. They demand 8 deliveries and only pay for 2. They have an 8 a.m. delivery after a 3 p.m. phone call the previous day. They make you measure the foundation even though you don't do concrete. Don't get me started on this. That drives me crazy. You shouldn't be measuring the foundation. Make the concrete guy measure the foundation. Anyway, they have crappy plans. They hold you accountable. They make door swings on the home incorrectly and then blame you, right? They want you picking up extra material at no cost immediately. And they want full credit when they gave you the bill of materials. They expect you to chip in $2,500 for a partnership barbecue, and then they force community back charges on you because, well, the construction manager who's never on site, he doesn't know who really scratched the tub. Yeah, been there, done that, bought the shirt, jumped across the desk, I'm on the other side. We know these things. Right now, this is your NFL draft. We have prospects that are out there. They're knocking on your door. They want to be on your team. You have to make some cuts to create room on your 53-man roster for the new talent, to have a better fitting team who can win and have more fun. It is prospecting. It's always prospecting. But how you prospect changes now due to the economic environment and its impact on your customers, your prospects, and your competition. There is fresh, exciting talent at every single position, but you got to make trade-offs, right? Because there's only so much room on the team. And because you're in allocation right now, allocation is already forcing you to choose which customers you truly want to partner with. Now is the time to double down. This idea in sales right now in the lumber and building material industry that you do not have to upgrade your roster, it's dangerous. It's still prospecting. It's just different activities, but it's the same mindset. Take this opportunity now to upgrade your roster. As for my own Chicago Bears, well, I'm hoping there's not a repeat of this.
Here's the rookie, Cade McNown, and it looks like he will have to carry the team the rest of this quarter.
And as for you New York Giants fans, well, all I can say is I'm kind of a fan from afar now. Why? Because I get to listen to this with zero frustration.
With the second pick, I'm sitting at Ben & Jerry's, and I got a lot of flavors to look at. Mother told me it was never polite to answer a question with a question. But I'm going to do it anyhow.
So that's all we've got for today. Thank you for listening. Take this time to reevaluate your own roster, this roster of your current customer base, and view the prospects that are in your market who are knocking on your door. View them as future talent, just like the NFL draft. Our goal is to make this the best podcast you listen to, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas for future shows or potential challenges that you are facing with builders today. And no, unfortunately, I can't do anything about product availability, but we can surely help in how you communicate that to your customers and your prospects. Feel free to email me directly at bradley@behindyourbacksales.com. Again, that's bradley@behindyourbacksales.com. And you can link up with me on LinkedIn and connect with me on Instagram at BehindYourBackCEO. I want to thank our sponsors. You can learn more about Boise Cascades engineered wood products and their innovative SawTech technology by visiting bc.com/EWP. And I want to thank Materials Exchange. What E-Trade is for the stock market, Materials Exchange is to the LBM industry. They make commodity pricing transparent, buying simple, and the fees are low. Register today and use the promo code BRADLEY, BRADLEY, to get your first trade free. We're going to close out like we always do. You, my friend, you're owed nothing. Deliver value first.